This is Common Sense Radio on Lanterns Media Network, powered by freedom-loving, self-reliant Americans. I'm Susan Swift. I'm a proud native Texan, married mother of 7. I've been an actress, a lawyer, and I love God, family, and country. And yes, I'm the C word. I'm a conservative, fighting the good fight on the left coast.
And I'm AJ Davis, born and raised on the East Coast, now infiltrating the left coast. I'm a millennial, a husband, father of 3, and a military veteran. I'm fat, I'm bald, and yeah, I'm not politically correct. Welcome to Common Sense Radio on Lanterns Media Network. All right, hello everybody. I have my friend Riaz Patel and my Navy buddy Cedric Buchanan, but he goes by Buck. How are you guys today?
Good.
I'm great, doing good.
So I wanted to bring them both on because over a month ago, Riaz and I had a conversation, and he kind of pushed me to watch the documentary The 13th. And more than anything, it took the race tunnel vision out of my eyes, and it made me say, okay, well, what do I not know about race? So the first guy I thought about talking to was Buck, and because he's a level-headed guy, and he's always someone that was treated me with respect, welcomed. So what he and I started talking about was I said, hey, I told him about my family history that I had just found out a couple weeks ago, like I told you, Riaz, and it was interesting because I guess some of my family roots has some KKK in it, and my mom was embarrassed. She's shameful of it. She never brought it up, and I'm 33 years old, and I'm going, wait a minute, what else do I not know? And
that's crazy. That's crazy.
And these conversations are very intense that I had with her, and she absolutely doesn't want to have any more conversations because I think it brings up too much pain to her. But the conversation I had with Buck about it, his demeanor of the whole thing is we were communicating this back and forth, and I don't think it ever changed anything about him because he knows my character. He's been around me so long. So, Buck, what did you instantly think whenever I told you a story like that?
I think addressing issues that I have been going through with my family at the same time, I think that we cannot judge anybody by their past because I think my relationship with my father has been shaky at times, but then at the same time, I can't judge him according to what he's been through. I can only go by what I know about my father today. Like my father left me when I was a young kid, and I guess I was upset, but I couldn't judge him by what happened. You know what I'm saying? I can only see who he is moving forward. So, me knowing you, I just can't judge what you've been through. I know when I met you was a great guy. All throughout the Navy, you was a great guy. So you explaining something that happened in the past with your parents, it didn't affect me. I just know who you are, and I know your character. So that's all I can say.
Are you, again, once you meet you, AJ, and again, this is why I keep trying to get people to have conversations in person, is because it disarms the other. It disarms the other. If I'm sitting chatting with you, we're maintaining eye contact, I'm in your home, you're in mine, suddenly whatever my perceptions of what I thought I hated are real. Right. So my question for you, Buck, is that knowing AJ is AJ, are you surprised when people reveal that the KKK or something has been in their past? Or do you know that it is so pervasive that people often don't know where it is and where it's not?
I just can't. Like me, I'm down here in Birmingham, Alabama.
Yeah.
Civil rights is a huge issue. I just can't. For him to bring it up, it just didn't affect me. I just couldn't go by. I just know him. You know what I'm saying? I just can't say what his past would be or anything like that. All I know is AJ. That's all I could go by.
And that's the better way to go through the world. Is just know a person as a person.
It is.
Right.
And another thing, Riaz, that transitioned over to diversity is Buck and I had a conversation about the Navy. Like, you take people from all over the United States, you put them in living quarters, like I told you, 120 of your best friends having a sleepover for 6 to 7 months. And Buck and I really dived into that. I mean, he and I talked for 30 or 40 minutes about this because we thought it was something that a lot of people should experience. That, for instance, my wife, her sister, her husband grew up in McMinnville, Oregon. They graduated in high school 2004, 2005 with one black person. So when my wife and them came to Virginia to visit, or my wife came to live and her sister came to visit, the first thing they said to me, this is a cultural shock. They said to me, I remember, I've never seen as many black people in my life. I think the military would be an excellent thing for those three.
Right. And it changed me because being from Birmingham, Alabama, all black, high school, middle school, elementary school. I went to an all-black church. I went to HBCU, historically black college university. Going into the Navy was my first time being exposed to everybody at the same time, where I could just I can see everybody has the same problem. Everybody is struggling with the same. Everybody's just struggling. And then at the same time, it just introduced me to just everybody. People are just people. Everybody is just going through life, trying to make it. So that was my first exposure to just everybody. Like he said, in one burden of 120 different personalities.
From 120 different backgrounds. And the thing that really stuck out in that conversation, and I brought it up to you, Riaz, was Buck says, you know what, AJ? More white people hated you on the boat than me. And why? And my question, and I'm sure Riaz will have many questions on that, is why do you think that, Buck? Because that made me relive the 2 years that I was on the USS Enterprise. Because I'm going, okay, well, was I wrong? Was I bad? What did I do that was wrong?
That's a good question because I don't know. Now, my role here's my introduction to the Enterprise. When I first got there, I didn't know anybody. When I first got to the Enterprise, they accused me of like going to captain's mast. My first day coming on board, they was like, are you the guy that been to captain's mast? I'm like, this is like a chief. I'm like, no, sir, it wasn't me. And they just accused me of being that person. Once they found out I wasn't that person, they never apologized or anything like that. But I had a first class that would say, hey, I'm going out to eat. You want to go? Or we going to the movies. You want to go? And he would just take people out. And so with him being there, I think I ended up taking on that role. I just started meeting people. I wanted people, because I was 26. I was a little older. I had already been through college. And so I wanted people to be more comfortable. But I don't know. They just never accepted you. I just don't know. I mean, it was like, this is a great guy. Funny. And I mean, you was a hard worker, too. I don't know where you get that mentality from. But I don't know why they didn't accept you on the boat. But it was like when I saw you, hey, let's go out to eat. Let's go to the movies. Let's go to Langley and do something, But I don't know. They was all against you instantly.
AJ?
I wonder, Buck is the only person on the USS Enterprise that met any of my family and that I stay in contact with.
Right.
That's I think what happened, what I'm thinking is there was little pockets of people in our division of our 120 people. I didn't have a pocket. I stayed to myself. I was a hustler because when we went out, I had a baby on the way. So the one thing, Riaz, that people hated in the military was doing laundry. Mm-hmm. So me being the hustler, my parents always taught me, work hard, work hard. So what I did was I started doing people's laundry. And then there was a guy in a pocket that was doing, or two of the guys in the same pocket that were doing it as well. But I would always, capitalism at its best, free markets. I would lower $10 less than them.
Right.
So I don't know if that was part of it. I actually had one of the guys that was my competitor, we'll say, told me that he was going to cut the brake line on my vehicle when my family's in our car. I kid you not.
Because you were cutting your prices down for your laundry.
Right.
Yes.
It was no competition.
Whoa.
No competition.
Yeah. So it has absolutely nothing to do with race, background, anything. It was your laundry services.
It could be, yeah.
But what they did to you before then, though, was that before your laundry service, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was only on deployment.
Okay.
Because I had been there a year after. Yeah, I checked in 2006. So I don't know what I did. I mean, I came in as a West Coast sailor, confident, kind of laid back. I just carry my heart on my shoulder, and I express my opinion to everybody. So a lot of times it gets me in trouble, but I wonder if that might have been it.
But did you tell Riaz what they did to your boots and all that stuff? Did you go into those stories? Or?
I did not. No, why don't you go ahead and tell him that?
I don't know what happened. I just know after, like, oh my goodness, y'all did what?
There was a lot of people. I mean, he's right. More people hated me on the boat than anything. And I was a person that tried to keep to myself. And the funny thing is, more of the blacks on the entire boat loved me. I at least my assumption was I got along better with him. But so we're out on deployment, we're doing the laundry things, and what everybody does, you have these 3 racks with your beds, and you put up. You sleep, and then there's nowhere to put your boots, and obviously you're not going to put your stinky boots where you sleep. So you put them right outside where you're sleeping, and somebody took a dye packet and put in both of my boots. So, and I didn't find out till I went in the shower, 12 hours later. So I have a nickname that Cheeto feet, because my feet turned orange for weeks upon weeks, and everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people thought. This pocket of people thought it was the funniest thing on the planet. Right.
So they put orange dye in your boots, and then that orange dye did not come off until how long it took for it to come out?
Over a month.
Oh my goodness.
See, that's bullying. That's how someone learns to empathize with people who have been bullied. Is because for an arbitrary reason that you can't even years later figure out, really, was it the laundry, was it not laundry? You were picked, like I have been picked, and someone said, I'm coming for you. Right. And I feel like that experience of being targeted, being looked at, being pointed at, and singled out is what made me over time become aware of my race, my sexual orientation, all this. I didn't really go out to the world being like, hey, everyone, here's who I am. I was just living a life that was me. The amount of times people kept pointing, making comments. Where are you from? What is this? Little jabs. It happened since age 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, because there was always something to pick on. And so I always tell people that really, if you can understand that is the building blocks of what it's like to be a minority. Whether you talk about, race and disadvantagement and institutional racism, all of which are valid. But the feeling for no reason of your own that someone will come, point to you and say, you don't belong here or you should stand out is the building blocks of racism. And I tell people when they talk about racism all the time, look, people call racism ignorance. People call, not knowing racism. I'm like, I don't think that helps the conversation. I know racism. Racism is, I see you and I wish you harm. That's racism. That's not wanting you have a job, an opportunity, a friend, or whatever. That's what really hurts. It's when we get into the areas where we start calling everything racism, that we lose the potency of what racism is, which is pretty darn bad. It sucks to feel it.
Right. That is important too, because I was teaching my students about racism. I was telling them, I said, if we get a group of kids to go outside, you know what? Those kids are just going to play. They're going to have a good time. But it's actually what they learn later on down the line that begins to separate them. Because kids are just going to have fun. They're going to enjoy each other. But later on down the line, they kind of separate. Like at my school, we're one of the most diverse schools in our county. We are very diverse. And the kids are beginning to just learn different cultures. They're enjoying themselves. We have different programs to welcome everybody. And we have our anti-bullying program going on where kids learn about all different cultures. And they're accepting it. They're buying into the program. They enjoy it. So it's something that has to be taught. I was telling Dave, I just took my class to Memphis to go to see the Martin Luther King assassination at the hotel, and some of my kids were like, oh my goodness, I've never known any of this. We know about World War I and World War II, but this happened right here, and we had no idea this was going on only like 50 years ago. So some of the kids just dove into it, and they was like, I can't believe this. I cannot believe this. And literally, they were learning about it. And the Hispanic kids was like, oh my goodness. I was like, it's about equality. And to see them take that, go on their own and approach me at school, like, guess what I learned today? I learned this, I learned that, and how we should help each other out. It's like it's small steps, but they are taking steps for positive.
Hi, we're the Bells of Liberty.
You can listen to us on Lanterns Radio Network.
New shows air every Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern.
You can find us on Spreaker, SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, and iHeartRadio, and on Twitter at Bells of Liberty. See you then.
Hi, it's Blake Johnson, and you can listen to my show, The Blake Johnson Program, every Monday evening at 9/8 Central on lanterns.buzz. Here, I'll delve into the news of the day and anything related to politics, movies, music, faith, and more. Nothing is off limits. This is our meeting ground for conservatives, libertarians, Christians, all liberty lovers. The Blake Johnson Program, every Monday evening at 9/8 Central, only on lanterns.buzz.
Hey everybody, I'm Matt Holloway, host of the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Media Network from Phoenix, Arizona. And you can catch our show every week live at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern. For those of you who live in Central Time, I don't know what that is because I don't feel like doing math. No, I'm kidding. It's 6 p.m. Central Time, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, every Sunday here on the Lanterns Media Network, where we hold the line against the night and lift up our light to shine it into the darkness. Don't miss it. Again, that's the HoloNet podcast here on the Lanterns Media Network.
Hello, America. Michael Murphy, Voice of Reason here. I hope you'll join me Thursday evenings live at 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central. See you there.
Do you feel like, and again, this is in the past 2 years with all, this election and Trump, and I have two feelings about it. Do you think that tensions have become higher? Do you think that there's less connection? Do you feel like there's been a palpable effect or not?
I mean, the tension is very high because you think I'm a history teacher. I couldn't even tell my students to watch the elections because I didn't know what Trump would say. My Hispanic kids, that next day, and I told my brothers how terrified those kids were that next day because they didn't know what was going to happen. They was looking like, what are we supposed to do? How do we? And for the first time, I could not give them an answer. I could not relieve them of the stress and anxiety that they had. It actually hurt my feelings. Like I love everybody. I mean, whoever you are, I just love everybody. But for the first time, I could not say anything to make those kids feel better. I'm talking 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds. I could not explain everything's gonna be all right. I could not honestly say and make them feel better. They were terrified of what happened. Last 2 years, Donald Trump, I really can't. I love politics. I believe everything always worked themselves out. But I think it is more divisive. I think some of the rhetoric that he used, but I don't think Donald Trump ever hid who he was or what he thought. I think even when he was running for president, people were saying, you shouldn't say that. You shouldn't say that. He was telling him he shouldn't say things, but it was clearly what he was thinking about at times. So it was.
I definitely feel the divisiveness around my areas, but I wanted to know from you guys if you feel it where you are as well in your environment.
Right.
Yeah, I feel it as, I think what it is people that are conservative, Republican, for the last 8 years were, you're a racist if you don't support this, you're this, you're that. And I heard it so much from family members, and that burned me because I go, oh, they don't know who I am. And they're telling me you're racist because you don't support the black man. No. I didn't approve of his policies. I have many friends. I can tell you my friend in Birmingham, Alabama, that can prove to you that I like black people, that I love everybody, and it's a knee-jerk reaction that people were tired of being beat down, and but I'm tired of the last year of people playing teams. We can have principles, but let's do what's best for everyone. I'm kind of want to shift my radio program away from politics. I mean, there's some that I want to cover, but I'm more interested in culture. I'm more interested in race. I'm more interested in these kind of conversations because you have big names that do on each side that are doing the national stuff that are effective. I'm wasting my time if I'm trying to be, the next Mark Levin, Glenn Beck. That's not going to be me. I want to focus more on this stuff because
and that's the problem is that we are politics is becoming more. You're a part of a team. It's like either you are with us or you're not with us. There's no middle ground. You can't be between. It's like if you watch the news, it's like either you agree with me or you don't agree with me. You can't be both. So
you agree with me, or you're racist, or you agree with me, or you're dumb. Like there's no other option that's viable. Like and I feel like the tribalism. You look and I'm like everything you are, everything you've experienced, everything you've gone through, everything you believe, everything you want for your family goes one or two ways. Binary, like it's either Clinton or Trump, Republican. Like that's all that we are. We're either A or B. There has to be some way to honor people's individuality without saying, "Are you A or B? Are you B or A?" Like there's no way around it. So to me, I'm trying to find the gray. Literally celebrate gray pride and say, okay, what are the solutions? Because chances are the solutions to all of our problems are not going to be one or the other. It's going to be a combination. And if we're not even speaking to each other, we're going to have a really hard time figuring out a conversation and a compromise.
Right.
And it's funny you say that, Riaz, because I was telling you off air, Buck told me, I don't know, what was it, 2008, it was 2009, whenever I was just getting into politics and I was just, my heart was, like I told you both, I'm 120% in. And he told me, he says, politics isn't everything. And I wouldn't have this conversation in 2009. I wouldn't. Would you agree, Ria, or Buck? Would you agree?
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So I think what I'm learning is opening up my horizons because I have a lot of friends that I work with on a daily basis that are on Team A and other ones that are on Team B and I feel almost like the middleman in a way. And I'm just like, oh, this is what the national level is like, and it's just, I can't do it anymore. I can't do it anymore. I just can't.
But on a national level, you don't have enough people in the gray area. On the national level, you don't have the people that's in the middle speaking out. You know what I'm saying? You have the people that are chosen their sides and they're all arrogant, but you have a lot of people that are just silent on the issues that should be addressed because they don't want to be judged on, okay, I should be with this group. It always goes back to like resolving being bullied. You want to make a decision, but at the same time, the people that sit back and say nothing are actually the ones that need to be saying the most. Like you need to speak out more. We kind of hide behind not wanting to be involved in certain issues, even if it affects you directly. We'll say, all right, we'll just sit back and we'll see what they come up with. And I guess we'll just roll with it instead of trying to make change or stepping out and saying, all right, so we know the problem. Here's the issues, and here's at least what I think we could do together to resolve the problem. You don't have enough of those people.
The conversation is that the crux is having that conversation. Is three of us sitting down and saying, okay, now what do you think? What do you think? What do I think? How is this actually going to work? Because we're not allowed to speak. I'm supposed to call you racist, AJ, I'm pointing to you, and I'm supposed to make huge assumptions about you, Buck, and your life and what you are and what your needs are based on just your skin color. That's the way we're supposed to make this all work, is I'm not supposed to engage you as people.
So here's where I want to kind of move to. For each of you, here's the question. What is the biggest concern in your community? And Riaz, you go ahead first. That like the national, maybe not national, but the biggest issue that you see from your background that that people are quick to label or judge you, that someone like Buck and I can help you?
To me, it is, I would say 10 years ago it was the gay thing and the gay marriage, but somehow that's sort of like become, we move. Now it's the perception of Muslims and immigrants. It's if you were to look, and AJ and I were just talking about this, at a graph of Islam, it's as crazy as a graph of Christianity. You've got like your Lutherans and your Calvinists and they're everywhere. And there's one tiny strain in the mountains of Iraq and called Wahhabism that is now what everyone thinks Muslims are. And so I think the fear of Muslims, of immigrants, when they really are, it's so innocuous. It has nothing to do with the religion they practice. It's literally, these people have been trained, militarized from a very young age. I think that's what I'm seeing is that backlash against immigrants and Muslims, because they're like, hey, how do we know? Who's terrorist, who's not? And I think that's the thing that I'm feeling from Trump. Again, before that, it was probably the gay marriage thing was the fight that I had to have 6-8 years ago. Now I don't. Well, for now. So I think it's the demonization of the immigrants, of the Muslims, and of the other.
Okay. What can Buck and I do to just, I guess, empathy and conversations like that?
Absolutely, and it's knowing that when people speak of blacks who are violent, that is the same subset as Muslims who are terrorists, which is the same subset as whites who are racists and hate groups. I mean, it's we're all being labeled by our extremes, and statistically, it is. I mean, I go to Indonesia, I go to South. This craziness doesn't exist outside of war zones. Like it just doesn't. And so the war zone is taking the face of 1.4 billion people, and also immigration. And I think, like, you guys got to go in the Navy and have a slumber party with 150 people. People got to travel and to sit, have to have that slumber party with people that were the things they thought they hated. I think it would go a long way. So the conversation is one. Speaking about it is one, because you can only speak about yourself so much. It's weirdly why I'm more effective talking to people about the black rights than I am about myself, because for some reason people can't see me and see I can get past it, whereas I can say, look, I've got no horse in this game. See the documentary The 13th. It blew my mind. And so it's almost the people who are not of the sect have the best impact of changing people's perception.
Right.
That's my answer.
Okay, Buck, your turn.
I mean, on my side, I think with African Americans, I believe, and it could be a lot of issues. Me being an educator, the violence in the African American communities could be a very huge issue. Lack of education is another huge issue. I'm struggling with now trying to bridge the gap between, in Birmingham, you probably don't, we're still segregated in Birmingham, Alabama, according to our school systems. I mean, if you're not here, you probably wouldn't know at all. Just last night, 5 minutes away from my middle school is another middle school that is all white, and our report cards just came out on yesterday on all the grades of the school systems and things like that. So I'm trying to develop a middle ground of where do we start educating African Americans? How do we stop the violence? I'm working with my older brother who is just getting out of prison from serving a life sentence. He served 7 years for possession of marijuana. He served 7 years of a life sentence for possession of marijuana. So my issues, they're so broad right now. It's he's working to make sure that when people, not just African American, when people get out of jail, they have somewhere to go or some type of plan to help them find a job, to find a place to stay, encouraging them that there is a brighter day ahead. So it's a lot. And just like Riaz said, it's like when other people step in and acknowledge the problems that are going on in your community, it helps more than me going out saying like, I need help. But if you came down here, Davis, or Riaz came over and said, hey, these young men need help with this program, it would it would stand out more than just me, even though I'm from Birmingham and been here just about all of my life, you know.
Which is so sad in a way. Like, it's so sad that we are the least effective at helping our communities after a while because everyone's hearing our voices.
Right. And so I think violence is another huge issue in my community. Like what I said, when people see, I don't know, it's like when I watch the news, it's like the first 10 minutes of the news in Birmingham is like violence, and it's all in my community. But if somebody buy a new car or something like that, it's not like an African American bought a new car. Something positive that happened on the news. It's always the first 10 minutes is just negative news. So when people look at me, it's like, you're more violent, you're unemployed, you're unemployable. You know, it's just stereotypes that people have. So, and it's a big struggle, and it's a list. And even though I'm coming up with a couple of steps that could help, but still, like, I don't know how slow. How long do you wait, you know, to make a change? So, I mean, in order for you all, this is helping. Like, communication is the number one source. Communication, getting your information out, finding your purpose in life. Like, this is my purpose. I could dedicate hours, years, or however long to make sure that this change. So, communication is one. We need more people not afraid to approach and talk about the problems. We need some of these pastors to come out of the pulpits and come into the communities and address the problems, and politicians to come into communities to address the problems that they see, that they once was a part of and they stepped away from and never returned to. And I mean, that's my biggest problem, because I've stepped out of my community that I grew up in, but I'm constantly going back over there. I'm constantly talking to those kids. I'm constantly talking to those adults. So, I mean, it's just something where I can take a group of guys down there and talk to the community, or I could take somebody from the outside and let them know how life really is, you know. So, those are big issues.
I would love to connect with your brother.
Oh, man. Yeah, you can. And he'll tell you the story all day.
That's fascinating. And the school segregation, because I follow a couple of reporters on Twitter, you know, it's as bad as it's been, you know, 20, 30 years ago. They're separate but equal. It's not even equal. They're separate.
Right.
They're completely
right. I mean, in Birmingham, we had one of the biggest high schools and well-known high schools they have newspaper articles saying we need to get rid of the riffraff in our school system, and they're considered like the African Americans riffraff in their school.
What?
This is in the newspaper. You know, it's in the newspaper. We need to.
I listened to some of the Board of Education hearings of some of these schools that were looking at busing or integration. I don't know if it was Alabama specifically, but, you know, these parents would stand up and say, look, I don't mean to offend anyone, but I don't want crime and drugs in my school around my children. And you're like, and parent after parent would say it. I remember hearing this amazing New York Times reporter or magazine, can't remember her name. She reports on just this, school segregation. And it's brutal. It's brutal. And people don't know it.
Right. And it's up front too. It's like, it's not even hidden. Like Gardendale, one of the biggest big high school here. It was like we were going to rezone. We need to get some of these kids out of our school system. And what they're doing is when they rezone the school system, once they push the kids out, there's no way for them to return. So it's not. I mean, this is like this year. This is last year's news. It's like months ago. It's not 20, 30 years ago. It's here. It's right here in our face.
Wow.
We should do a conversation about school segregation because it's there. It exists every day.
It is. I mean, 5 minutes away. 5 minutes away from my school.
Oh, I'm going to come visit you. Because this is the stuff I do. Is I crisscross America and I find these sorts of stories that are interesting. So
you would love it. You will say, how could this school be 5 minutes away from another school, and it's 95% white students here? Yeah. Surrounded in a black community. It would amaze you. It would amaze you.
It amazes me. I mean, I'm going, I'm speechless. I don't even know what to say. I didn't even know this. Honest to God, I'm going, how can I be so ignorant and not know that that's still going on?
Well, now you know. Now you know. You can't necessarily be blamed for what you don't know. When you know, now you know.
Yeah.
Right. So now we can blame you, Dave.
Now we can blame you.
Blame you.
You answer your own question. What can we do? What are the biggest issues that you are facing in your community,
Right.
AJ?
The biggest thing facing in my community is tunnel vision. I think tunnel vision and not listening to people. People, I don't know how many white people I could tell you that would never have this conversation that I know.
Yeah.
I think tunnel vision and not listening. I mean, and the thing to do is have more conversations like this that open up. I mean, like I just said, I had no idea that segregation is going on, and that to me, it's absolutely horrible.
Yeah, and it affects generations.
Right.
Generations. Right. You take black men off the street and you put them in jail for unfair drug possession repercussions, and then you take the kids and you put them in inferior schools, right? I mean, at a certain point, you're like, what year are we? Like,
right,
what
right.
year are we? Like, and the thing is, a lot of this people will say is backlash to Obama. Or I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think that there are, in communities, there is still a distrust of each other, at least one-way distrust, that makes people feel like if black children are coming into my school, so are gangs, violence, drugs, and low grades.
Right, right.
And it's breaking that. You know, it's saying if immigrants are showing up to my community, so is shadiness. It's so hard to break people's perceptions of what they think they believe is real.
Right, and it's an instant concept. It's like you don't even have a chance to introduce who you are. No. It's like I've seen you, I saw you, and this is what you represent. That is who you are. There's no type of information. Real quick, we had a young lady coming out of school. She's Muslim. And what is it called? A hijab? She wears a hijab? Am I saying it right?
Hijab.
And so when she came in, the students just looked like, oh my goodness. And I hate to say this, they was like, how did you all let her in the school system? And I talked to her the other day, and we talked about bullying in the school, and she was there last year, and she won everybody over just with her love. She just won everybody over. She had like a hug day. She just come and hug people, and now she's like the most popular girl in the school. Everybody knows her. Everybody loves her. And it's like, at first, it was like, what is going on? But I mean, like a month later, everybody is like, where is she? How have you been? She's sick. Everybody's just, but they had to give her the opportunity to be herself. Her spirit had to win over the whole entire school. And it was just so, and she came in my classroom the other day. She was so happy I was talking about it. And she was like, yeah, it was rough. She said, I was nervous. I was scared. I had been in private schools the whole time, all my life. And then I come here. But she was like, it's everywhere she goes, though. It's like she still puts up with it. She's like, if I could take this whole school everywhere I go, life would be amazing instead of me having to reintroduce myself every time. But it just took time, and she just won the whole school over. She's an awful basketball. She's an awful basketball player, though. Like, oh my god. But she loves it though. But it's just some quick story I just had to share.
I have been trying so hard for the past year, and I'm working the system of how you get. I think 4 chairs can change face of hate in America. If you can get 4 people, and I'm devising like a system of literally questions for 60 minutes, get 4 people who think they have absolutely nothing in common. If you can get them to sit for 60 minutes, and they will find that they have everything in common, because every struggle of their life is analogous to the struggle of another person's life. And it's figuring out how 4 people without any history can sit down and be guided in a conversation so that in 60 minutes they're like, oh, I know who you are. You're just like me.
Right.
And I'm working on it. I've worked on it with Glenn Beck. I've worked on it with Christians in rural Texas. I've taken it to Saudi Arabia. I'll take it to Alabama. Like, I'm trying to find the way that this foolproof, and it really is about listening without judging, because all of us are waiting to speak.
Right.
So few people are listening, and so few people are actually just waiting to speak. Like, they're just waiting to get their opinion across. And it's sitting down in person and looking someone in the eye and say, tell me about your life. Because if you're in front of me talking about your life and I'm looking you in the eyes, it's going to be really hard unless I'm a sociopath to not
Right.
be by it.
Right.
You know, you have to do these conversations in person with eye contact, or at least.
And without arguing, it's just, we just having casual conversation instead of arguing, fussing, trying to persuade each other. It's just casual conversation. It just helps.
Yeah, it starts with what you have in common, which is, I don't know how many of you have kids. I've got 2 kids. You have kids, AJ. Do you have kids, Buck?
I don't have any kids.
Oh, you have freedom.
Here's something. I want to go back to that question you guys asked about my white community because I kind of thought a little bit more. Here's one thing that bothers me. I went to a city council meeting about what was it about? It was meaningless. We had a couple people get up, a couple white ladies get up, business owners and different people from the community get up and say, as a white woman of privilege, blah blah this, blah blah that, and it stopped me in my tracks. And when you guys were talking about your communities and everything like that, that really hit me. Now, as I'm thinking about it, going, that term is being overused on a daily basis. It's, as Riaz, you and I have talked about, it's not helpful.
Yeah.
I cringe every time I hear it. Cringe.
I mean, I think there are, like when you see the 13th, you see how there are real systematic problems that have been there for an awfully long time.
Mm-hmm.
For me to turn to a white person who has nothing to do with it and say, your life is privileged when their life actually feels to them quite horrible and struggling.
Right.
It validates their feelings. To me, I say to people, there's majority think, there's group think. You know, there's times where I walk around as a gay, liberal, progressive Muslim in my entertainment Hollywood circles. I'm not remotely self-conscious about what I say or do. You, AJ, would be very self-conscious in my circles because in that mode, I am a majority thinker. I enjoy majority privilege. And so for people who have enjoyed it, that's one thing. But to say I have privilege when my life is struggling and I can't pay my rent and all is such an invalidating thing to me at times. You know, can they learn the lesson without the finger pointing and being told you have something amazing when you look at your own life and you're like, it doesn't feel very amazing. It feels like it's a struggle.
Yeah. Right. And maybe that's a good way to describe it. Is the problem in my community is finger pointing. That's what it is. Oh, I have the solution. I have the no. Like we've all talked about, getting together, finding common ground is the solution. Because Buck has things from his past, Riaz, you have things from your past, I have things from my past that we can all come to the table and meet. We can us three can come to the table and meet 1,000 days, years before we start talking about things that we disagree on. I think that's what I learned from the Navy. I learned over the last since my friendship with both of you that I've kind of developed. Like, wait a minute, I need to think a little deeper on things and come together because I still have my principles, my rock hard principles, but I need to listen to people more.
Right.
I think listen and embrace being wrong.
Right.
If I talk to Buck and I feel like I've studied his area, I know him, I know his family, I know I'm well-read. I don't know Buck. Buck needs to, whatever Buck conveys to me, his own life, his own truth, his own existence, that will trump whatever I think I know. And so in that instance, I would be wrong. You know, a boat is a great escape from a flood until the floodwaters get higher, and then it's a helicopter. The best solutions change. So I think everyone has to be okay saying, look, I am going to be wrong in this conversation, and there's absolutely nothing wrong because you telling me about your life is always better information than me making assumptions about your life.
Right, exactly.
And everyone, because we have so much information, we think we know everything. I know about you and the black cause. I know about you and your white privilege. I know about everything because I have information that is curated for me to believe exactly what I already believe.
Right.
I need people to say being wrong is the way you lead to connection. Because if I thought I know you and you tell me your own truth, I am closer to you for having been wrong.
Absolutely. I follow, I think it's Gary Vaynerchuk. Anyways, I can't remember. I'll find that out and send it to you guys. But he says, I thrive for failure. That's how you grow. I mean, that's what over the last year, that's what I've learned more from doing radio to work and that's what I want to teach my kids is failure is good.
Yeah.
Right.
It really is. That's
Right.
how you grow and become a better person.
How could I possibly know what it's like to be either of you until I ask you? How can I know? You know,
Right.
it's a weird thing we're in now where everyone speaks like an authority on things that they think they know. And they wait to speak. They don't listen. If you really listen, I'm going to learn stuff I didn't know, and that's going to change the way I think. So these conversations with certain parameters, it's funny, these rules I'm defining is I almost feel like there has to be a moderator, someone who's got no skin in the game, but say, that's not actually what he said. You know,
Right.
when AJ's been talking, you've just been tapping your foot. You're not actually listening to him. You know, someone has to be on the outside saying, I'm calling you, not on your facts, but I'm calling you on your inability to give this man the dignity of listening. Because we think we do.
Absolutely. Hey, guys! I want to thank you both for being
Pleasure.
here today,
Oh.
and maybe in the future we'll have another conversation like this and build on this to because I'm really interested now in with the Alabama school system being segregated. That interests me, and that book, Buck, that you sent me, I sent it to you, Riaz. What is it? Can you remind us of the name of it, Buck? The New Jim Crow Laws.
Oh, New Jim Crow, right.
Yeah.
New Jim Crow. Alexander Michelle.
Why
It is
should
a
we
pleasure.
read it?
Both of you.
I mean, you enjoy it. It'll give you a lot of great information about poverty, crimes, why they exist, where do we need to go from here. And I want you all to send me a couple of lists. I'm going to go pick those books up today, AJ, that you sent me. And I'm trying to read like 4 books a month. I'm on pace. I'm doing pretty good. So, but all I do is read. So send me a couple of lists of books that you all recommend, and I'm just gonna dive into them.
Will do. This is a pleasure, gentlemen.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Thank you all so much.
You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz. For great radio, get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.